Hey everybody, it's Luminary week here, and while I am fighting a bit of a sore throat and my voice may cut out here, let's go ahead and do our weekly review of Luminary, taking a look at the episode. What? I already did a review of Luminary, but this is Luminary week. This is the week I'm supposed to... Really? This episode stands out in many ways as such a great story. It almost feels like its own movie. Well, what do you know? If you have friends or relatives... Well, okay, since we've already done a review of Luminary, let's talk about some of the things that were happening in Season 2 and how they're reflected in Luminary. Like, for instance, one of the big things of Season 2 was the introduction of Lara Mees. Now, in Luminary, she's... Oh, she's not really in Luminary, is she? Well, okay, one other thing that came out of Season 2 was the fact that Jordan has a gift very much like her father's, and it doesn't have anything really to do with this episode. No. Oh, well, you know, this episode, Frank finds out a lot of information about the age-old battle between good and evil, and how there are different groups within the Millennium group who are fighting against each other, but not in this episode, are they? No. So, oh, I know! Your comments! I've been asking you guys to comment about these videos, talk about the episodes, throw some of your own thoughts out there, and I said sometime we'd come back and we'd revisit them and take a look at some of the things that you guys have said. So what better time than Luminary Week to take a look at some of your comments about Luminary? So we're going to go to backtofrankblack.com and go to the post of my original review of the episode and look at some of the things that you guys have to say. For instance, the first, getting old. Much better. Okay. First is from Joseph. I hope it's pronounced Joseph. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know what he looks like, so we're just going to use this picture to, He said that, I must confess that Luminary didn't do much for me. I can't fault a thing on the production as a whole. Everything is expertly made as a Millennium episode. I guess it didn't feel much like a Millennium episode. It really went outside the whole dark Millenniumistic quality we've gotten used to. True. It does not feel like a lot of your standard Millennium episodes. In fact, even when Season 2 made a lot of drastic changes, it felt like something completely different from what we'd seen. For some people, it's a fresh breath air, or a breath of fresh air. But for some people, it was just an oddball episode that kind of stuck out that didn't really have a whole lot to do with the rest of the series, and that is a valid point. He said, I guess I want Frank Black to be on the trail of a killer than some guy who went to Alaska to get away from civilization. But there's the beauty, Frank cares. Indeed it is. Alex Ventu's journey is this journey of faith, trying to figure out his place in the cosmos. For Frank, it's also a question of why is he involved in the Millennium Group? Why is he doing any of this stuff? And we know it is to help other people. And if the Millennium Group is not doing what they're doing just to help other people, they've got some sort of other hidden agenda, it makes Frank think about really why is he involved in the group. And that is a pretty important theme for Season 2. Let's see here. Sarah said, I can see what Joseph is saying about Luminary. I'm going to say that that's Sarah. Just, I can see what Joseph is saying about Luminary not being the traditional Frank trailing a serial killer episode. But then very few of the second season adopted that formula at all. And that's true. Most people would call Season 1 the serial killer of the week style episodes. Kind of following that X-Files deal where they had the monster of the week episodes. But as X-Files added more of this, overall arc about the alien abductions and the colonization and all that stuff, Millennium also kind of took that big arc here with Morgan and Wong at the helm, pushing for that bigger story. There's something going on besides what you're just seeing week in, week out in the episodes. I think, however, that Luminary is perfectly dark, but in a very different way from what we've become accustomed to. What we are actually seeing is a young man placing himself in a situation that he knows will no doubt kill him, simply because that's his calling, and Frank's interest in this case parallels his and Lara's own stories in many ways. True. Frank knows that he has to keep doing what he's doing. He can't stop, even though a lot of times it puts him and his family in danger. And the Season 1, Season 2 cliffhanger really plays a lot on that theme. The Paper Dove storyline, the idea of the Polaroid stalker who takes Catherine and everything that happens in that. He knows that there's a lot of danger involved, And season 2 really kind of adds that idea that his very soul may be in danger. And for some people, they didn't like that added spiritual element, but for people like me, it worked really well. Their gifts, their callings, if you like, will ultimately lead to both paying a great price. In Frank's case, it's his wife and daughter, and in Laura's, her sanity. Yeah, we see that happen in season 2, where Frank and Catherine grow apart, and the only thing that brings them back together is a great tragedy at the end, which ultimately tears them apart, and, she dies. Is that a spoiler? I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody. Let's see. David here says, Luminary is not one of the best episodes in my opinion. It's very enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but it's wide open, no pun intended, to interpretation and does leave you feeling a little unsatisfied on occasions. That's true. It is very open to interpretation, and if you're not watching the show, for that type of mind expansion, then you're just sitting there going, what the heck happened here? What's the story here? And I can see that point very well. Foxy Wonder, love the name. She said, I happen to love it and think it's one of the best, or one of the most spiritually uplifting episodes of the whole series. I think Millennium gives you what you want to get out of it, and it very much depends on the type of person watching it and what floats their boat. Which is very true. There are so many different types of episodes within Millennium. That was one of the nice things about it, is that you could do these big overreaching arc storylines. You could do these, small serial killer of the week episodes. You could do funny episodes like they did later on with Somehow Satan Got Behind Me, and some of those types of things. So it really did allow itself to do a lot of things. Questions about the iTunes music. I screwed that one up. I'm sorry. When I originally bought it off iTunes and downloaded it, the Apple Store actually said that the tracks from Midnight of the Century were the tracks from Luminary. And that's actually, I took it from my receipt from iTunes and typed it into my media player and then burned the CD. When I put the CD back in my tray recently to rip the songs off because other people wanted the music from Luminary, I was listening to them and I thought, this is not the music from Luminary. What have I been smoking? And sure enough, it was the music from Midnight of the Century. It was labeled incorrectly on my iTunes receipt. Probably something that they fixed very quickly. And let's see. Finally, R.S. Wyman. R.S.? You gotta help me out here. I'm terrible with names. Luminary is one of the more realistic episodes. Luminary gave us hope that Catherine and Frank would eventually find their way back to each other and the Yellow House. Catherine showed fear and concern for Frank's welfare to the point of confronting Peter Watts. This episode gives the viewer a glimpse into the future. At the end, when Catherine hands Frank the envelope from Peter Watts, after he reads it, Frank tells Catherine he doesn't know if it matters. Is Frank giving the Millennium Group a second thought? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the big things here, is Frank re-examining his relationship to the Millennium Group and where their goals may actually conflict with his goals. So Rhonda, is it Wayman? I don't know. You got to help me out. I'm terrible with names. So anyway, those are some of your comments that you guys left behind, and I kind of wanted to do this today to let you guys know that I am reading them. Mark at backtofrankblack.com, he's also reading them. And I wanted you guys to know that this is what we want. We want feedback like this. We're going to do more episodes of these in the future where we take a look back at the episode, what my review of it was and how your comments actually add to the overall dialogue. I love hearing from you guys, so make sure you keep on posting. Keep it tuned to backtofrankblack.com for more news, and make sure to check out my site, vglosers.com, and we'll talk to you guys later.